It's December the 21st, and we're right before the Christmas holidays. And I guess one of the wildest places to be at the moment is a wine shop, especially for us as wine lovers. Everybody is focused on retail. Retail is going crazy as usual, and everybody tries to find his or her favorite wine for themselves or as a gift. And especially if you're working in retail in the wine industry, well, you know what I'm talking about because, yeah, it's Christmas time and people are just going wild. What also was going wild this week was the wine industry in general, because I had the feeling that some people have listened to my last episode, 219, where I was talking about the current situation of the wine industry, the crisis we are currently in, and so many people that try to prove that alcohol actually is healthy, is good for your health. And we will talk about some studies, about some decisions this week, because not every institution was following the so-called Christmas holiday piece some people might talk about. In addition, we will have some insights for markets in France and in Germany, and we will have an outlook on the possibilities in China for the wine industry. Have fun! Welcome to the Pinot Pixel podcast episode number 220. There are 3 more episodes to go in 2024, and guess what happened over the last few days? The industry went wild. And I'm not only talking about the current situation in retail where everybody's trying to find the gift right before Christmas. No, I'm talking about institutions that published papers, that took decisions, and some releases about the current situation of different markets. And I would like to start with one of the most important news, I would say, this week. And this is why I said I thought that some people were listening to my last episode. The European Union made a press release on December 19th saying that they want to reform the wine industry to tackle the oversupply and climate change. And these are just 2 factors of several ones that are contributing to the so-called wine crisis, the industry crisis. And some pieces of this paper are very, very interesting, not only for me, but for the whole industry. I guess one of the most important things is how will we deal with the oversupply, especially in specific regions. And one thing that the European Union wants to do is they want to set up a proposal for grubbing up schemes, programs that provide financial incentives for producers to permanently remove vineyards, especially in those regions with persistent oversupply. And we have seen this in Bordeaux, and this can help, but there are way more things we have to do to tackle this crisis. We have to adapt to climate change. This is nothing new, but it's good that it is part of the paper. Climate adaptation, so the support for climate-friendly practices and make them easier accessible, especially for growers. We have the response to the market, where we see a change in consumer behavior, and the European Union wants to focus more on the growing demand for low and no alcohol wines. And there are 2 more news that are quite interesting, especially for this topic. And then in addition, we want to boost export competitiveness. And all these facts are definitely trying to contribute to a solution for our wine crisis, for our industry crisis. And if we will manage to realize at least some parts of this proposal, we will definitely have a healthier future for the wine industry. And another thing that was published this week was a study that tried to bring out that moderate consumption actually is good for your health. And I mean, this is something we have already talked about in episode 290. So many people are currently trying to prove that wine, that consumption of alcohol, when it comes to moderate consumption, is actually good for you. And I think that the word moderate has never appeared so often in papers, in news, in articles, as it has done in the past weeks. And especially when we talk about this specific study, the word moderate is mentioned, 25 times or so. The setting behind this study was that they were looking at the behavior and also the health condition of over 1,000 participants of the study when it comes to wine consumption, when it comes to the development of their health. And they found out that, or the study brought out that the people that were consuming wine or alcohol moderately had actually healthier life. There were almost 700 cases of heart attacks and cardiovascular diseases and stuff recorded. And especially when we have a look at the ones that didn't have any issues, moderate consumption was one of the base parameters. If you are interested in a more pro view, on a positive view on this topic, I recommend to read the article of VinePair. I'll put the link in the show notes. And then there is a more, I would say, ironic one that says, okay, well, right now we have a study that shows, or at least that indicates, that there might be some positive impacts, even though they were said to be very low. But in the end, generally, I think we have to get rid of the idea that we have to prove in any way that alcohol is actually healthy. As long as we are talking about moderate consumption with 2 drinks a day, in my opinion, this can't be good for us. We should focus more on storytelling, on the focus of quality, of the development of our culture, and the connection of cultural and social gatherings, and the role that wine and other drinks are playing in this specific environment. And of course, I totally get it when the World Health Organization or the German Institute of Nutrition are publishing things like, or recommendations like, no amount of alcohol is safe for you. I get why some people try to defend alcohol itself. But in my opinion, it is a bit stupid to just focus on that. We should more focus on our storytelling. And of course, also on the support of the industry itself. And this brings me back to the factors we were talking about recently in the EU paper that was published in the beginning of the episode. But talking about moderate consumption or zebra striping and stuff like that, the changing consumer behavior, alcohol-free products play a very, very big role. And one win this week for this sector, for the no-low category, was the final decision that was taken in Italy. Italy has agreed on rules for dealcoholization. We talked about that in the podcast. Italy tried to set up some rules that it will finally be allowed to dealcoholize wine within the country, to push the market, to push the segment, and also to feed the interest of people in the no-low category. And finally, the proposal was granted, and the only thing that is missing is the signature of the Minister of Agriculture, Lollobrigida, who already is a supporter of this proposal. So I guess from 2025 on, we will be able to dealcoholize wine in Italy. So doors have been opened, and finally, I think this is a good sign, not only for the category, but also for the Italian wine industry. Because a thing that people always forget is that also dealcoholized wines are contributing to our industry. And a second decision that was taken this week was published by the European Union itself. If you don't know this, with the current laws, with the current wine law, you are not allowed to call a product organic when it has been produced organically, but then it has been dealcoholized. There was a hole in the regulations, and right now they are changing this, so it is expected to be allowed from 2025 on. The publishing is still missing, but it is accepted for the end of this year that from 2025 on we will be able to call an organically made wine that has been dealcoholized organic. Of course, there is a set of rules. It has to be dealcoholized through vacuum distillation, so reverse osmosis is not allowed. The filter size is set, and we have to end up at a maximum amount of 0.5% of alcohol. But this is actually a good thing because I know so many producers that focus on dealcoholizing organic products, and due to the higher demand of organic products in general and the growth in that category, this is definitely a good thing, not only for growing the category, but also bringing the focus more towards quality and storytelling. And of course, usually organic treatment in the vineyard and in the wine cellar supports the idea of sustainable winemaking. And talking about sustainable winemaking, the last round of the Sustainable Wine Roundtable had an interesting discussion on the usage of lightweight bottles, because there are some big players in the industry that said we will only accept lighter weight bottles in the future if you want to enter our market. For example, Systembolaget, the monopoly in Sweden. And it was part of this roundtable discussion, and one of the leaders in that area, Dr. Laura Catina from Chile, said that we have to focus on introducing lighter weight bottles in general and not only for our entry-level wines, because this would be the wrong message. And following that article, she argued that producers have a responsibility to put higher quality wines into lighter bottles. Brands which are focused just on lightweighting their entry-level wines are definitely not following the idea of trying to bring some awareness for sustainability, for weight, for the CO2 footprint into the industry. So if you want to change something, we have to do this. This is her recommendation as a brand in general. So also the high quality wines that are usually associated with higher quality when it comes to heavier bottles have to be filled in lighter weight bottles. And I think this is correct. It would help the industry, of course, especially when we have a look at the CO2 footprint, to fill up some wines in lighter weight bottles, but this also has to be done for the high quality wines, because otherwise, as she said, it is the wrong message. And I would say this would be also, if we won't do that, it would be also tricking the customer. I mean, there are plenty of studies that show that heavier bottles support the feeling of higher quality. When we talk about the consumers, about the behavior, about the willingness to pay more for a bottle. But if we want to change this narrative, we have to change the bottle weight and the storytelling, the marketing stories of our quality wines. And right now we come to our market section on the podcast, and I would like to start with a recent article on the current situation of market share for wines, for still wines, and for sparkling wines in France. Because not only the world in general is seeing a decline in champagne sales and in the interest of champagne, usually because of the price point. France itself, so the wine country, one of the biggest consumers of champagne, it's around about 50% of the champagne production in general is consumed in France. They see a decline. The sales of champagne in France's large and medium-sized supermarkets have fallen by 13.5% since the beginning of the year. This is absolutely crazy. This is a loss of 1.77 million bottles, and the value decline is 8.2%. And who is winning? Cava is winning because of the closeness to France, and Prosecco. Prosecco always doubled its market share from 10 to over 19%. And Cava also went big, and the same accounts for French and foreign sparkling wines that grew from 23.8 to 30%. And I mean, especially when it comes to the foreign country sparkling wines, Prosecco is just leading. They have a huge supply and the quality is getting better, and they do a good job when it comes to storytelling. We talked about the development in the UK and the US, and I think that at the latest in 3 years, we will see Prosecco hitting 1 billion bottles. They're currently sitting at 700 million bottles a year when it comes to production, and this will definitely grow in the future. And talking about interesting markets for the future, China is one of the markets, not only for the no-low category, but also for high-quality wine. And this article from the drinks business shows that China gave the German wine industry a huge boost this year. China has been interested in Riesling for quite a long time, and only in 2024, according to the latest customs import data, German wine imports to mainland China have increased by over 10% in volume and almost 9% in value compared to the last 12 months in 2023. From January to September this year, German wine imports reached over $20 million, a year-on-year increase of 6.6%. This is actually quite big, and it's good to see that the interest in foreign markets is there for quality, and this is also something I barely understand. I mean, Germany has had a reputation for high quality wines since over 120 years. And especially when we talk about the time around 1900, German wines were said to be of the highest quality and even higher price than Bordeaux Grand Crus, for example. And what I don't get is if the US, if China, if other countries are so convinced of the quality of German wines, why is this so hard in Germany? I don't get it. I mean, we talked about that in episode 219 as well. Germany is one of the few wine countries in the world where the market share of German wine is lower than the one with foreign wines. We're talking about 44% at the moment, according to the German wine statistics from the German Wine Institute, and compared to 56% from foreign countries. And if we want to change the narrative, we have to focus more on the high quality of German wines, more awareness for the price levels, because, I mean, German wine is more expensive compared to the imported ones. And we have recently seen a huge growth in bulk wine that is imported to Germany. So this is not contributing to the story that we should drink more wine from Germany. We make great wines over here, and people should know that, and we have to talk more about that. And when I see news like that, Germany remains world import champion with 655 million liters. And when we talk about the value, Germany is just third place because the stuff that is imported to the US is higher in average price. The US has the first place for imports with 3 billion euros, and Germany is only sitting at 1.2 billion euros, which results in €1.85 per liter. Talking about quality, this has nothing to do with that. Usually it's the cheap bulk wine that is imported, and bulk wine was the winner in 2024 when it comes to the imports from Germany, because all other categories saw a decline. Bag-in-box, bottled wines, and generally the categories such as sparkling wine and still wine. So bulk wine is winning. The imports usually are coming from France, from Spain, from South America, and this is driving the high interest of the German market for wine. But this has nothing to do with quality. Talking about an average price of 1.8 euro, what do you expect from wine like this? So talking about the level of quality, I'm personally usually talking about 10 euro a bottle. There is enough interest for bottles that are way cheaper than that, but if we want to change our narrative, we should focus more on bottles that start at the price of 8 or maybe 10 euro. And last but not least, again, talking about China, one of the biggest players in the wine industry, Concha y Toro, recently partnered up with a Chinese company for a Christmas premium gift box. The gift box consists of a baijiu, so this is the I would say the national spirit of China, and a bottle of Concha y Toro's premium wine Don Melchior. And for the people who are watching, we are currently looking at the picture. It's a beautiful gift box. It's golden, and one premium bottle of the baijiu is included, and one bottle of the premium wine from Chile. And this will only be the starter point, because Concha y Toro has realized what is currently going on in China, that there is a huge interest for premium products, and due to the fact that China had taxes with Australia and stopped importing wine, there was a hole that had to be filled, and South Africa, Chile and Argentina were jumping in, and Chile saw and is still seeing the opportunity in the Chinese market. And a spokesman of the Chilean company said that this new collaboration is a continuation of years-long activations by the Chinese baijiu maker to raise its profile overseas and vice versa. So both industries are helping each other, focusing on premium products, and Concha y Toro sees an opportunity to get closer to the traditional baijiu drinkers. So even though you might think that people who are more interested in spirits maybe won't be wine drinkers, but Concha y Toro sees an opportunity over here and wants to grow in the Chinese market. This was it, short and briefly, the update for this week. On Wednesday, episode number 221 on Christmas. And then the last episode for this year next week on Saturday with the final weekly update of 2024. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I see you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.